Oh, feel free to turn your video off if you want, because we're not recording that.
Wait, is my video on?
Yeah, we can see you.
No.
No shot. Just me shirtless in the pod, just naked cooking.
Oh, do you know what? I should tell you this. I probably won't put this on the podcast, but like when I was at the slopes with my mate, he had to jump on some conference thing like for work, and some lady had her camera on, and she was like in the bathroom, and she like showered, and she went to like the toilet. Like everything was like live on like this.
Nah. Oh, no.
It's so bad. She doesn't. I don't think she knows though. I think no one told her.
We're gonna do this on purpose for marketing purposes.
But he's naked!
Where's my phone?
Tez, dude, your podcast sucks.
For the good, better stay back.
Podcast.
Welcome to the HoneyCast. I'll jump in and ask Pemby first. How are you doing, mate? Co-hosting again? How's it going?
Yeah, it's always nice to be on. And today I have a new street name. It's P Squizzy. So I'm feeling pretty cool.
Yeah, you look cool. You sound cool.
Thanks,
so,
man.
yeah, of course. So today we have some guests I'm pretty excited to chat to because, like, I think we've been talking about doing an episode together forever. I think it's been over 6 months, honestly. Kind of been waiting for mainnet, and I guess we just finally decided, hey, let's just make it happen. So we've got the Island Boys with us today from Kodiak. We've got Beartic and BeraRodman. How are you guys?
Island boy!
Hey, doing quite well. Thanks for having us. And yeah, I mean, this has been planned for quite some time, so quite excited to finally make this happen.
Yeah, BM, thanks for having us. Excited to cook.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you guys on.
By the way, Tez, you're gonna edit in some like Island Boys music and post, right?
Sure. Are you aware of the Island Boys thing, that we call you guys the Island Boys?
I'm just island boy.
We don't, but I know who they are. Yeah, I think we share some similarities, like IQ level,
Like a wagwan man.
hairstyle,
We
but not the
we look
bling.
similar.
Yeah, not the bling.
Not blinged up.
Yeah.
Not yet. Working on it.
Trying to make it to the top.
But yeah, I mean, maybe we should start with the origins of the Island Boys. Like, how did you guys meet? How did like Kodiak come together?
Or maybe for context, it's good to touch on the backgrounds a bit. The team is kind of all around degens, if you will, right? So we've all been in this space for quite some time. Personally started off as an engineer before joining the venture side of things. So when kind of in venture, my role at the firm I was at was kind of the in-house degen, if you will. So I was tasked with exploring new ecosystems, kind of trying new innovative products, and being more in the trenches than the rest of the team. At the time, I was exploring a specific ecosystem called Canto, if you will. I think with recent attention, we've seen Canto in kind of the news within Bera from the intern and kind of the posts that they've been making. But they actually had kind of cultivated this pretty mimetic and like degen culture. They had launched in this like fair launch fashion. However, after exploring it for some time, kind of realized that they had ultimately like, commoditized a lot of the infrastructure, and it didn't ultimately like leave a lot of space for builders to come in and try something new. And so at the time, like fortunately enough, the venture firm I had joined previously invested in BeraChain before I even joined the firm. And so when I was comparing these two chains, there really wasn't anything similar to Canto at the time, other than BeraChain. At the time, everyone was kind of writing it off. And so a colleague and I, who actually, it was his first deal at the fund I was at, was investing in BeraChain. We actually just kind of convinced each other to bolt hired BeraChain for the last like year or so. And ultimately, like as things started heating up, I met Beartic through kind of deal flow and just sharing things that we were seeing in the space, chatting on a weekly basis. And at a certain point, it was time to kind of go heads in on BeraChain. And so I left the firm, approached Beartic to start Kodiak, and we've kind of been downhill ever since, if you will.
Yeah, so in terms of my background, I started off in negative Web3 in corporate law, and then also kind of moved up the ladder to Web 1.5, working for an IT solutions company. But really went into crypto like full time in 2020. Joined one of the OG and larger investment DAOs in the space. And as BeraRodman mentioned, during my time at the Venture DAO, spent a lot of time with Robin here, sharing deal flow, discussing different theses and things we were interested in. But the funny thing is, when we first met in person was actually for a birthday weekend on an island.
Island boy!
for one of our mutual friends, and we kind of kicked it off there, stayed in touch, and then when Rodman presented me with this opportunity, I just couldn't pass it up.
Wow, you guys really are island boys.
Yeah, like a wagwan man.
Yeah, it's like I think you guys just brought it up talking about the island boys. Like I just like looking back the first time we actually met literally on an island.
Yeah, I actually currently live on an archipelago, so inspirations from that.
Yeah.
When you say you're on a random person's island for a birthday, I have to admit the first thing that came to mind was like SBF or like the FT.
Oh no. Yeah, we would, but it was a friend. So it was a friend's birthday weekend on an island, not a private island or anything. Very public island.
Well, even if it was better SBF's island than island.
True.
Yeah, Tez, I don't know if you can put that in the podcast.
I can take that out. I can bleep it. So many spicy islands.
Dinner with a gang sign.
Well, then I guess whose original brainchild was Kodiak then? Was it just a coming together of both your ideas, or who originally kind of put the idea forward?
Yeah, I think so. Fortunately enough, like I've had the ability to kind of network and get close with some of the developers of various other dexes. And I think generally speaking, we think that there's like a very large opportunity to come in and create the native dex for any new ecosystem. And so throughout the last couple of years, we've seen kind of the success of Camelot on Arbitrum, Velodrome on Optimism, of course, Pancake Swap on BSC. And I think, about a year ago, there really wasn't anyone kind of focusing on this space or focusing on this specific vertical within BeraChain, and we just saw a kind of oversized opportunity to come in and kind of develop the native DEX, if you will. Yeah, that's kind of the origin of it.
What a year we've had! So many new Bera projects keep popping up, and half of them seem to be coming out of the fucking honey jar. If you're struggling to keep track of their hundreds of NFT mints, check out their swanky new website to stay on top of all things THJ. Link in the show notes.
I mean, in saying that then, should we maybe get into a bit of the nuts and bolts of what Kodiak is? Kind of explaining how it differs from UniV3 and what the islands are. Who wants to take it? Pemby, you got this one?
Well, I mean, I'll take it. If I can.
Okay, so Beartic is about to touch on quite a few different things Kodiak's cooking up in the soup kitchen. But don't fret, dear bearers, because Pemby will help us break it down.
So I guess, like going back to the origins, when we were first building Kodiak, we were solving for one particular like problem space within BeraChain, and that's how do you direct BGT emissions to concentrated liquidity positions? Because if you see on UniV3 and other like concentrated liquidity AMMs, you can have like an infinite number of different positions or like concentrated liquidity positions based on the different fee tier you select, based on the different like tick ranges that you select. And I guess the ecosystem's perspective, users, validators, foundation, everyone, you don't want to be incentivizing liquidity that's out of range or in such a very narrow range that it could be potentially farming a lot of the BGT emissions. And secondly, concentrated liquidity positions are represented as NFT positions rather than typical ERC20s that we saw in like the full range AMMs like UniV2. However, we saw the rise of concentrated liquidity. They are more capital efficient, works especially well for stable pairs as well as LST pairs. And we wanted to make this capital efficient product also compatible with BeraChain's proof of liquidity. So what we decided was using a DEX backbone similar to Uniswap, where we have a full range AMM and also a concentrated liquidity AMM, and just leaving the concentrated liquidity AMM as is and building our own automated liquidity manager on top. And by building this ALM on top of our concentrated liquidity AMM, we were able to kind of tokenize the positions for these like concentrated liquidity positions. So instead of liquidity providers receiving a NFT position, instead they would receive ERC20 LP token that represents their share of the vault that they deposited into, and the vault is a wrapper for the V3 position that it holds. And the other thing is you're able to kind of create these unique strategies for these vaults to ensure that liquidity always stays in range as price for a specific pool moves towards the upper or lower bound of the currently set range. We're able to automate the actual rebalancing of these positions so that they do stay in range. So with this solution, we're able to ensure that liquidity stays in range for these ALM vaults that we call islands, and also ensure that LPs get ERC20 receipt tokens so that they are eligible for BGT emissions. So that was the initial problem that we were going to solve. And then a year later, now we've expanded our product to much larger suite. So for Kodiak now, we're BeraChain's native liquidity hub. We're the go-to platform to launch, trade, provide liquidity for any asset. And our current product suite consists of our V1 AMM, which is Panda Factory. And you can think of this similar to like a token deployer such as Pump.Fun, and then there were many predecessors before that, but right now Pump.Fun is the hottest deployer right now. How we envision Panda Factory is it's a permissionless way for anyone to deploy a token through this bonding curve, and basically at a certain threshold, it graduates from this isolated AMM that we've created and migrates over to Kodiak's full range AMM that we call the V2 AMM. There's some unique things that we're cooking up with Panda Factory. So for example, like a lot more configurations to allow different types of tokens. It doesn't even have to be meme coins. It can be project, pretty much like any legitimate project or meme coins can deploy, and they're not really subject to like the constraints that some of these other bonding curve launch token deployers have. And then secondly, we do have our full range AMM, our concentrated liquidity AMM, and then we have the automated liquidity manager that we call Islands. We run our own validator. And lastly, there has been some snippets of this on the timeline recently, but we are working with Strike. They're formerly known as DopeX, one of the larger options protocol on Arbitrum. They'll be coming over to BeraChain, but instead of deploying their own dApp, we're actually working with them on a white label solution to allow users to trade options directly on the Kodiak dApp. So we've kind of coined the name of this product as Boptions.
Boptions is a great name. Also, there's a lot to break down here. And you've spoken about the ALMs, proof of liquidity, how it intersects with that, the Panda Factory, and also the options counter product. Maybe let's start with the ALMs before we move on to the other stuff. Something you touched upon was that, you're going to have V3 pools, but when people LP into V3 pools, their receipt of deposit or their position is represented by an NFT, right? Which is non-fungible, which, breaks a lot of composability in DeFi. And you mentioned, two of the main benefits here of ALMs are, number one, it manages liquidity, and rebalances, within different ranges and ticks within V3 pools, which is amazing. But also another benefit is that it gives back the LP an ERC20 receipt of deposit. So yeah, do you want to touch on quickly how having an ERC20 as opposed to an NFT helps LPs here better leverage proof of liquidity?
Yeah, so when you want your pool to be pool, vault, whatever smart contract to be whitelisted for BGT emissions, the actual BGT is going to the holders of the receipt token of whatever they deposited into. And the requirement is that this receipt token needs to be an ERC20. So the first point is we're building on BeraChain. We're here to make sure BeraChain grows and provides scalable as well as reliable infrastructure for users starting day one. So with our Islands product, we ensure that any pool that has their own island will satisfy the requirements to even submit a governance proposal for BGT emissions and actually start earning BGT emissions. So that's the first point. And the second point is something you also brought up is composability. What is unique about the BeraChain ecosystem is there's a lot of DeFi protocols being built, as well as now we're seeing much more variety of protocols such as DePIN, etc. But in terms of the DeFi protocols, we're all very collaborative, and a lot of our partners are building on top of us. So we're working with money markets, other options protocols, other perp dexes that will allow users to rehypothecate or redeposit their LP token of the Kodiak Island to kind of borrow against or use it as collateral. So by having this ERC20 receipt token, you're able to not really have to pick and choose between should I deposit into an AMM, provide liquidity to an AMM first, or should I deposit it into a money market, perp dex, options dex, or any other derivative protocol? What you can do is go to Kodiak, deposit into an island, and then use your receipt token throughout the entire DeFi ecosystem on Bera chain to kind of use it as collateral. And this offers users a lot of optionality and the ability to earn higher yield. So we want it to be as less restrictive as possible and also make sure that our partners are successful, because if our partners are successful, we're also successful.
Here's a fun fact. Koalas have smooth brains. So Ches kept his mouth shut and let Pemby ask the questions.
Very nice. And to break that down for the etards, this basically means you can have your lunch and eat it too. Basically, your liquidity gets managed in an effective and efficient way, and you can then go farm that liquidity position or borrow against it or do whatever the hell you want across the DeFi ecosystem with it.
You telling me a Bera built this chain?
Hey, another cool thing here maybe to explore is that since you guys are going to have this options product as well, will there be certain ALMs or islands that leverage some kind of option strategies in addition to like rebalancing these spot positions within V3 pools?
Yeah, so our core focus initially is just like a flagship island for the major pairs as well as a lot of our partner protocols pools. And they're meant to be very simple. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Our strategies are going to be simple in making sure that users' deposits always stay in range, or the islands always stay in range. And then as we see the maturity of the ecosystem and kind of see the influx or demand for more unique strategies, we will be kind of opening up new islands that leverage different types of derivatives, not only just our own AMM. So we are talking with quite a few other DeFi protocols where they're very interested in being a manager of one or many of our islands themselves. But in the beginning, we just want to make sure that when users come to Kodiak and especially the islands page, they're not bombarded with like 100 different options, especially for the same like pair, because I think the worst thing you can do is offer users too many options. You see like a Bera Honey island operated by 5 different managers and you have no idea which one to deposit.
Okay, so you're saying just you'll have one ALM and one manager for each pool, or you'll have like a meta manager?
Yeah, that's still an exploration, but in terms of initially, like Kodiak, like when you go to the Kodiak dApp, our islands will be managed by the Kodiak protocol itself, although all the strategies are automated, similar to what you see on Gamma Strategies, DeFi Edge, Arrakis, etc.
I think this is kind of a trend that's rising across DeFi now. Like as financial instruments on chain, like you get more granularity with them, which become, not very easy for the layperson to manage. So you get these like managers or vaults which spring up. Like we see this happening in lending markets, right, with Morpho. I think I've seen it in a few other protocols, and then like meta vaults built on top of this stuff. So yeah, it's really interesting to see this trend continued here as well.
See you on the island.
Yes, the island.
Well, yeah, it would be really awesome to talk a bit about, Panda. Are you calling it Panda Factory or Panda Express, by the way?
It's
Panda Express is heavy.
Panda? Just Panda?
No, it's the
Panda
Panda
Factory.
Okay.
Wait, it's not like Rodman was about to say Panda Express. You guys.
I know. I think I saw like a Rodman, one of your tweets or something that said like Panda Factory, which threw me off.
Yeah, it's just a simple rebrand. Yeah, we gotta align with our favorite fast food meals that we're forced to eat every day.
Yeah.
We gotta have orange chicken. Is it orange chicken? That's the meal, right? We gotta make that a ticker.
Orange chicken, lo mein, fried rice.
A Panda Express original orange flavored chicken, zesty, sweet, and flavorful.
Nice. All right, so can you tell us a bit more about Panda Factory? It sounds like it's not just one of those pump fund clones that we have on every single chain. It sounds like there's more functionality here and can be used by more serious teams as well, not just for meme coins. So yeah, can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so the Panda Factory, a bit different than pump.fund or kind of the normal bonding curve products that you have. The way that Panda Factory works is we have an actual standard bonding curve where tokens are launched on that curve, once they reach a certain market cap, they will automatically graduate to Kodiak DEX, which is kind of the normal or traditional functionality that you'd have with a pump.fund product. But what we've also done is we've actually allowed you to take this bonding curve and customize it. So you as a protocol can come in, you can set actually a custom start price, a custom end price, and we just give you a little bit more functionality in terms of what you can do with this launch mechanism.
Okay, that's cool. So I could make the curve bigger, smaller, steeper, less steep, make it wiggly if I wanted.
Yeah, and so what this does is this, rather than just like kind of limiting Panda Factory to only meme coins, this just gives us a little bit more optionality for other types of products that might want to come out, for deployers that, might have already done a launch and want to do something after the fact. You can kind of think of it as like an OTC curve, if you will.
One thing unique is that Panda Factory is like V1. We're calling it V1 AMM because Rodman posted this yesterday, but how we see let's say, for example, let's take a meme coin. They launch on Panda Factory. That's the V1 AMM. They graduate, hopefully, and they go to our V2 full range AMM. And as price becomes more stable and they want more like custom liquidity provision, like they want more custom liquidity management strategies, then they can also like eventually mature into the V3 AMM and have their own island. And with Panda Factory, it's its own isolated AMM. So for us, we're building the permissionless way to launch the token through the bonding curve, customize it to your liking, and also the ability for users to know that once the token graduates, a portion of that LP that is specified from the start will be locked or burned when it migrates over to full range V2 AMM. By having an isolated AMM, what this allows others to do is build on top of it and kind of create new use cases. I think Rodman just brought it up, but you could think of it like you could even create OTC markets out of it. You could also create pre-listing trading, markets out of it. There's a lot of things that others can come in, if not ourselves, to build on top of Panda Factory to make it just more than just a token deployer.
Okay, so can we walk through one of those examples? Like, how could I create an OTC market here using Panda?
Yeah, so let's say you already have a token live. Maybe you're an individual or you're the protocol and you want to sell a portion of your treasury to the community rather than going out to private investors and having to facilitate that deal. Because it's an isolated AMM, you can create your own bonding curve, like set a certain, like maybe have the starting price be a certain discount or have the ending price be capped. And you're basically able to like have an offering on your own Panda Factory AMM, and users cannot kind of purchase the same token out in our own, like on the Kodiak DEX itself and then sell it into the pool, nor can you buy from the Panda Factory pool and also sell it back into the Kodiak DEX itself because it's fully isolated. So like we're solving for the ability for protocols to kind of have these treasury sales or OTC deals or individuals to do so, but also mitigating the risks of people manipulating or trying to do some type of arbitrage during the actual sale itself.
So this gives you a kind of a protected period where you can participate in the sale, get kind of a discount on certain tokens. It's protected throughout the duration of this sale, if you will.
So when you say it's protected, it's like there's a short cliff, right? Because that's what would solve the instant arbitrage.
Correct. So you don't receive your tokens until this offering is concluded.
I think there's a few protocols like offering similar functionality, but all in different ways. So it's all very interesting to see.
Yeah, so we'll see how this is used in real time. But yeah, I think also going back to your question of like, why Panda Factory, if you will? We've been in the BeraChain ecosystem for quite some time. We've spent a ton of our personal time and BD efforts on really building up like a strong community, focusing on ecosystem projects, kind of providing as much support as we possibly can on the side of the builders, right? And attracting that liquidity to Kodiak, ultimately making it the place where people want to trade these tokens. However, what we found with a lot of new ecosystems is that the DEX that can ultimately kind of capture the mimetic degeneracy has a lot of staying power. So while we feel pretty confident with a lot of the partners that we're working with, the Panda Factory is kind of our answer to the fun and degen side of BeraChain that we're all here for.
Yeah, and Pemby, like I think there's a lot of synergies between like Yeet Bonds and also Panda Factory. Like if you guys ever wanted to come in and kind of offer a different solution from just traditional bonds themselves, and as Yeet Bonds like help with the structuring, like the vetting of the process, I think that those are the types of things that we want others to come in and leverage instead of us like managing the entire thing. Our goal initially, help meme coins launch because that's what's hot right now, and that's what BeraChain also has a lot of potential for is compared to on any other ecosystem. I think BeraChain has a chance to either get to Solana's level of the meme coin hype or even surpass it.
Yeah, well, we certainly hope so. And as for using ETH bonds with Panda, yeah, I mean, that would be great to discuss. But yeah, we can take that offline, unless we can cannibalize the rest of the podcast as. But I don't think we're going to do that.
have a partnership meeting on live on THC. But
yeah,
I mean, it'll be a first.
Yeah, but I feel like in BeraChain, you always have this stuff where people are collaborating on the fly. You know, at least I've witnessed it a lot in BeraChain, more so than other ecosystems.
Yeah, no, so absolutely. I think that's really like one of the things that has stood out since the beginning, right? Not everyone is kind of here trying to eat each other's lunch, but rather build with one another.
Yeah, it's like a potluck.
You're listening to the HoneyCast.
What do you think originally drew you more to the eco? Was it the proof of liquidity, like the tech, or did you think you saw kind of like a ripe kind of ecosystem for like this meme coin narrative to play out here? Like you said, maybe even stronger than Solana. Was that something that also drew you to this ecosystem?
Yeah, maybe I'm retarded, but I think I just aligned with a lot of the ethos, if you will, right?
Yeah.
You know, I can't read.
You're in the right place.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, you never want to fade the Colts in crypto, right? I think for the last couple of years, we've seen the kind of cookie cutter, like word cell tech L2s that are L1s and L2s that have popped up. And again, even with like various ecosystems like Canto that kind of lean into like the more degen nature of crypto, I think BeraChain had done a really good job at focusing on the community side, on the degen memetics to kind of bring people in. And underneath the hood, once you kind of dive into it, there's some pretty cool tech as well. And I think like one of the main differentiators here is like, you know, throughout the last couple of years, you see all of these kind of word cell L1s and L2s that pop up, raise large amounts of money with crazy valuations. The chain launches and there's no one on the ecosystem, as great as the tech is, right? You can have like a 10,000 TPS chain, and if there's only 2 users, it doesn't matter, right? And I think just out of the gate, like BeraChain had put a ton of focus and resources into attracting builders and just building up this like developer ecosystem. And I think from the outside looking in, that was really special and at the time quite unique.
Yeah, to be honest, when Rodman and I first started building on BeraChain, like we didn't even fully understand proof of liquidity. Like there were some snippets here and there. Honestly, like I watched like all of the THC podcasts just to like educate myself.
The HoneyCast mentioned.
That wasn't necessarily the selling point. I think it was the ethos. Like I like the idea of proof of liquidity, just like allowing applications to bootstrap liquidity and also have sustainable like incentives through the actual chain level incentive mechanism. But what really drew us in was the cult-like community plus strong backers. I think having both is kind of unprecedented in this space, where if you look at other ecosystems, you either have one or the other, and most times it's strong backers. But having this strong community where in the beginning, like I was in the trenches with BeraDrome, talking to them, understanding what they were doing. The Goldilocks guys, they've come a long way since, and also just talking to Pemby for almost a year now. So I think the builders are why we're super excited. The cult-like community, the support from the BeraChain Foundation themselves, like they've been very supportive to all the builders. And then I think the reason why more people will stay on the chain and it'll continue to grow is because of proof of liquidity itself.
I mean, proof of liquidity, the go-to-market game has been, you know, insane in BeraChain. Like we said, so many builders here. Combination of a cult community and strong backers. There's just a lot of things BeraChain has going for it. I think that's like the main takeaway here.
Yeah, I think to the other side of that, I think at the time, like people were genuinely writing BeraChain off. You know, it had been like a year since they had launched their NFT collection. It was being less talked about. No one thought it would actually come to fruition. And so it kind of presented an opportunity to kind of come in with a more serious mindset. And as that narrative has formed, it's worked out really well for us.
Yeah, and it's evolved a lot. I actually remember reading like this paper or this article, I don't know, 3 years ago or something, that explained this idea for BeraChain and proof of liquidity. But what would happen here is that validators would essentially stake an LP token. They'd provide liquidity. And that would be their economic stake, you know, their skin in the game. But also they'd hedge out IL with an option. And then this structured kind of product would then provide the backing for the native stablecoin. And it was just this kind of crazy combination of rehypothecation and all these layered financial instruments. I remember reading this all those years back and thinking, no way, man, this is crazy. But yeah, it's changed a lot since then. Yeah, and BeraChain has just evolved. So it's been really cool to see.
You telling me a Bera built this chain?
But anyway, so something I wanted to ask you guys about, like Rodman, you specifically, like you've brought up Canto a few times now and the similarities with BeraChain. And the similarities are not just like the very degen culture and like the memetics, right? But it's also, I believe on Canto, you have the financial primitives enshrined in the chain. Right, so like over there they have a native DEX, a native lending market, I believe, and it's also what we see in BeraChain. So yeah, I mean, do you want to talk? Maybe this is going off topic from Kodiak a bit, but do you want to talk about, you know, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, and why it's a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it's just a bit more unfleshed out than BeraChain. I think like BeraChain has taken a lot of thought into how each actor on the network interacts, right? I think the way as a base case, they ultimately align token holders, right? As a token holder, you want to, or I guess like if you go back to the kind of the app chain thesis, right? Like this is as aligned as you possibly can get between the actual like network and token holders. I think BeraChain has just fleshed this out a lot more than, for example, what you might see on other chains and like the history of like contract shared revenue. And I think, you know, they've really put the like systems in place that you can, rather than just kind of interacting with these apps and maybe receiving like revenue or fees from what these apps generate, they've really taken that and allowed it to expand across the entire ecosystem, allowing new apps to come in and kind of tap into that same mechanism, if you will.
Yep. And with, I guess there's like two types of ways they're enshrining dApps. One is the 3 chain-owned dApps themselves, Bex, Ben, Burps. And then the second is through their Build-A-Bear Accelerator program, which basically they incubate a lot of projects that bring value back to the BeraChain ecosystem. So with the first point, the chain-owned apps, I think it's very useful for BeraChain to have because you want to provide users with very simple to use, nothing too sophisticated, like reliable dApps from day one, making sure that if all the builders leave or builders are kind of delayed on deploying, you can still trade, borrow, and also lever up. With these 3 main dApps, users can be rest assured that like day one, there's going to be a place to swap, there's going to be a place to lend, borrow against, and then there's also a place to kind of do your slightly more degenerate stuff, leverage trading. These 3 dApps, from our understanding, are not meant to really like innovate much further, and the innovation comes from the builders, like the individual builders building on BeraChain, as well as this experimental like incubation program through the Build-A-Bear Accelerator program, where a lot of these dApps in the future, like in our opinion, will take majority of the market share away from the chain-owned dApps. And it doesn't matter because BeraChain itself doesn't care where the liquidity goes. They just want to make sure that initially there are safe, reliable, secure dApps where users can use, and then that the innovation through these other dApps brings more value back to the chain just because of how the proof of liquidity consensus mechanism works.
Yeah, well said, Beartic. So yeah, where do you guys think that a chain like BeraChain will succeed where Canto failed?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're already seeing it, right? Like the way that they've been able to just cultivate excitement and like cultivate people that want to come just build for the sake of building, right? Because it kind of brings this new energy that has been lost, if you will, that hasn't really been seen since like DeFi summer. Yeah, and this new energy that comes kind of along with it, and it's just a generally like exciting place to be, right? Everyone is extremely collaborative. Everyone wants to see like kind of everyone else win. It's kind of a rising tide lifts all ships scenario. And I think that kind of just tumbles on itself perpetually, if you will, creating like what we've seen today, starting with, a couple projects that are taking this really serious and like super excited about BeraChain into every major project in the space kind of looking to expand to BeraChain at this point.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
You're listening to the HoneyCast.
P. Squizzy did quite a good job at running through these.
He did, yeah. P. Squizzy
Yep.
It's why I rope him into these things.
We'll see how redacted after the fact.
Since has been edited, redacted.
You're listening to the HoneyCast. The HoneyCast, a podcast for bearers to fool them into believing this fake Ooga Booga chain is actually real. Back to the show.
So we touched on the composability, at least for like LPs. I think it would be good to touch on like the composability for users, right? And like what that means.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, please elaborate. Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things that we kind of hold dearly, especially when making design decisions or kind of thinking about Kodiak from the outside looking in, is we don't necessarily want users to only use our products, right? Us as a DEX, we don't necessarily care if you use like trading bots, we don't care if you use various interfaces, care if you trade via alternative methods. We as a DEX care that liquidity lives within our pools and that trades are routed through us. And so one of the things that we have been highly focusing our BD efforts on is just getting Kodiak integrated in every new product that is kind of popping up for users specifically. And so what this looks like is integrating with a lot of various trading bots, integrating with new terminals, integrating with various mobile apps, and just giving our users as much optionality as possible. We ultimately want our users to use kind of the plethora of tools that are available on BeraChain to kind of suit their needs. And as a DEX, we just want to focus on the base layer, if you will, but also providing like interfaces and products that are pretty innovative and people can stay on our app and use them on a daily basis, if you will.
You had a chance to go back to Kodiak and you took it.
I guess maybe I'll just leave one more question. Like, is there anything in particular you're most excited about for the near future for you guys?
Yeah, I think, mainnet's like finally coming around the corner. It's becoming more and more real every day, believe it or not. For the last year, we've been, for example, with Yeet, just brainstorming on all these flywheels, how we'll interact with POL, how we'll collaborate as protocols. And we're finally seeing that come to fruition, right? I mean, at this point, it's probably been like 6 to 8 months that we first came up with the concept for the liquidity trifecta. And I mean, just last week, we kind of got to see that go live, right? Users can finally come in, try all of these things that we're talking about, and experience the rambles in real time from the various teams that we've been working with.
Yeah, one other thing besides Token 2049, where we'll be, I guess, all getting together again, is our validator. I think we're very excited about running a validator on mainnet and just exploring the synergies between the Kodiak protocol itself, the various products, and how it aligns with running a validator ourselves. So I think Kevin from Ooga Booga tweeted this a while back in one of his GigaBrain threads. He was basically saying, would users rather delegate their BGT to validators run by communities that they love and are well recognized, or would they rather delegate to a more sophisticated validator operator that is running some algorithms to ensure that the BGT that is delegated with your validator is being used the most effectively, basically making sure that they're returning the most amount of value back to the delegates through accepting the highest bribes, just monitoring the bribe market, or I guess the incentive market, to see what is the best value for the validator emitting BGT to specific gauges. And I think for us, we plan to do both. We have a very strong community, we have great partners, so I think a lot of users, when they see the Kodiak validator, they'll recognize us, they love us. We have a lot of very strong community members just in Discord, Telegram, Twitter itself, so they'll delegate with us. But we also want to, besides Rodman and I, our tech team, they actually come from a quant TradFi background. So we also want to not just leverage the community benefits, but also run these more sophisticated strategies and algorithms to ensure that you're delegating to the validator that you love and a user of their protocol for, but you're also like kind of assured that the strategies that we're running will return the most value back to yourself as a delegate.
Amazing. And also maybe a little shout out to Zero as well on the community side of things and helping to build that culture over in the side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, similar to BeraChain, I think absolutely. I mean, at this point, it's becoming more tapped, but there's so much untapped talent in like the BeraChain community itself. I think if you really kind of get down to it and get in the weeds of your community, you can find some amazing people that like kind of align with the vision and are down to join the team. We couldn't be happier with Zero and the work he's done on the community side.
Shame about your community, Pemby. It's another mess.
Yeah, real fucking shame.
Yeah, it's an intersubjective yeet community.
Yeah, intersubjective bunch of fucking idiots. That's what it is. I've also been working on an offer for you guys. You want to hear it? Yeah, BeraRodman, I can't believe you had your camera on the whole time.
It's not on, right? No, you guys gotta be serious because the light is on. Like the light on my computer is on.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know
Shit,
why.
bro, that's the North Koreans. That's not us.
So like yeah, I don't know what's going on, but like the light's been on this whole time, so I've been like I don't know if I'm like actually on video or not.
I think you could.
Rodman's part Asian, so I think we need to rescreen our own team, even myself, to make sure we're not part of the Lazarus group. I don't know.
This podcast was an Ooga Booga production. See you on the next one.
Where's my ball? Tez, dude, your podcast sucks.
For the cook, better stay back.
Podcast.
Love honey. Right now, we've got a perfect ecosystem.
Hey, this chain's fake as shit, man.
Honey eater, bears eat honey. A bear, anything with a bear?
Hey, it's autism solved for at the moment.
I'm autistic. Never respect this ecosystem. Yes, sir. That piece of paperwork?
I like the janitor.
Very instrumental to the ecosystem.
I will get you for this, clone kicker!
Baby Bera.
Yogi Bear, Ozzy Bear, Build a Bear. Then by the time they find out, it's vaporware, it's too late.
Wait, is my video on?